So it's not every day we get to experience an original exhibition, and we're at the Kudos Gallery right in the heart of Paddington in Napier Street, Paddington in Sydney. And joining me, I have the curators of this ARBITERS exhibition, and I have Vasili, Papathanasopoulos and Orson Heidrich. So welcome, or should I say, I'm feeling very welcomed here because this is something which I personally haven't experienced before. So how did this all come about? And please tell us, exactly what is an ARBITERS?
Yep. Do you want to start?
Well, the show came about, Kudos Gallery had a call out for proposals, and Orson and I studied together, and so we recently graduated and we really wanted to get a show happening kind of quick after that, kind of follow up the hype from graduating and kind of making work. So then we kind of approached Kudos, like they had their call out, as I said, and we put together the concept and the artists, so found artists that kind of fit the concept so that it could be like a very cohesive and like kind of natural flowing show.
Right.
So all of us artists, we all went to university together. So we all have met at university.
So which university?
So we went to University of Technology, which is kind of funny because it's not a traditional art college.
Right.
However, we have pretty much practiced our art the whole time there, and all of our lecturers and tutors are all artists, practicing artists.
Right.
So we all have met there, and we've been working together for the last 3 years as a cohort, and also just as a collective of friends. So we have kind of shown together before, but in kind of different formations. And so we recently had a show, our graduating show, and Vasili and I kind of were absolutely blown away by the caliber of work by all our fellow artists.
Mm-hmm.
So we kind of had this idea to kind of hand-pick our personal favorites, and then kind of reformulate it into a new show with a kind of a more congruent theme. And so we kind of heavily selected both the videographic works and photographic works. And so we've kind of compiled these, and we've kind of run it through the center of this kind of concept of an arbiter of new standards. So an arbiter is a person who sets a standard or sets something or kind of dictates something.
So this is totally original?
Yes, yeah.
So not only are the pieces that we're going to be seeing, the artwork in that is original, the whole concept, the whole idea that you've put together is original as well. So when you say Kudos Gallery put out, what was it, a call out, right? So how did you know about that?
I actually saw it on Facebook. It was
Good.
It was like an event that like you can invite people to and whatnot, and I saw a girl who actually studied in our course but graduated years before us. She was interested in the event, and I saw it and kind of like took a screenshot and sent it to Orson and was like, let's do it.
So we've kind of had our eyes open for gallery openings for a while now. So we had quite a couple that we'd kind of been keeping our eyes on, and the Kudos Gallery was the first to cap off the rank.
Right.
And so far we've had a 1-for-1 hit rate, which is pretty rare. And yeah, so we just, Vasili and I, we kind of collected all the works together. We kind of selected the artist we want to portray, and then we kind of started working it together to a common theme, a theme that could kind of tie the whole show together, and then that was what we then proposed to Kudos Gallery. And he had seen both the works before at our graduation show and seen the individual works before, and also he was very kind of enthralled by the standard of the writing and kind of the proposition. So he pretty much, we got the approval and they told us that we had the show in 28 days.
Wow, 28 days to put it all together.
It was a quick turnaround.
How did you go sourcing all the pieces that you want to exhibit?
So luckily, lots of the works were halfway or fully produced.
Right.
Yeah, so in a way we had quite a strong advantage. However, lots of the works has been kind of reformatted for this show specifically. So we've had to go, I don't know, I've spent the last week and a half just building metal structures for the show.
We have some pieces that are featuring as we're talking now. So Vasili, can you tell us what are these pieces that we're actually looking at?
Yeah, well, these pieces are from Daniel Mitchell's series Germs, which is he's travelled around the world and shot all these images on analogue film. And then he's also collected a swab of bacteria from the places where he shot these images and then grew the bacteria on the negative to affect it to create this kind of like distorted pictures.
I was wondering,
yeah,
my gosh, so
so
that's actual bacteria.
So the bacteria has actually eaten away at the physical negative, and so then he has re-scanned the negative in its kind of deteriorated form, and that is what has. So he's then digitalized this analog process of the germs eating away at this analog film with this kind of chemical process.
That has to be original.
Yeah.
That whole concept, I don't think I've ever heard
And
of
so
that.
then the negatives have been digitalized and scanned, and that is kind of what has been the basis of this work.
Wow, that is really...
And they also just a spectacular work, you know, the colours that come through the bacteria is how it interacts, because it's, you know, an organic material, and also it just kind of has very kind of strong conceptual points of, you know, how we experience these things that are kind of hidden beneath these locations, you know, bacteria that is everywhere, you know, there's just lots of kind of very interesting things on observation.
Interesting how he would have come up with that whole concept. That's amazing.
He's a clever boy.
Very, very clever, very ingenious. What are some of the other pieces that will be on exhibition?
So we have this work, Baby by Taylor J. So this is our title work that we've used for all our promotion material. So this is a work kind of about gender roles and gender neutrality and kind of the genderizing of colours as well. And it kind of spurs from this quote by John Berger that talks about when a man smashes a glass, he is displaying his masculinity and his anger, whereas when a woman smashes a glass, she is displaying anguish with internal struggle. And so in this, she's kind of showing these two figures, both a male and a female, smashing a glass. However, what she's done is she's kind of played with the genders, you know, and kind of really, so obviously making the male pink and the female blue, but then also kind of disguised their gender as well, so, in their kind of form.
So these are stills,
yes, from a moving piece. Yeah, so that's yeah.
So there will be video moving artwork.
So it's a dual video piece,
right.
And
so it's video imagery.
Yes, so so that's a thing called moving image, which is a kind of hybrid between photographic practice and video practice, and it's quite a strong theme throughout the show. Both my work, Vasili's work, Taylor's work, it's all this this kind of crossover, this transitional stuff, which is both photographic and videographic. And so yeah, so kind of I think that's quite a pivotal point of this show, and kind of ties back to its name as well. It's talking about this new standard of artistic practice within where video is kind of becoming quite an established medium within the art practice. And I think, you know, us as contemporary young emerging artists all using video is kind of indicative of this rise of video into the mainstream art world.
How old are you?
21.
21, and how old are you?
I'm 21 as well.
This is amazing that people so young can be, number one, so good at what you're doing from an artistic point of view, but the entrepreneurial mind is what's really standing out here. The fact that you're being so original in what you're trying to display, and I just think this is a real new standard that you're setting. I mean, bacteria on negatives to then be transformed into pictures, and then this is this video imagery. I mean, this is the still from it. It's just amazing how you can translate emotions into footage. So yeah, so
that's a really good point. Yeah, definitely. Like, and I think that's a major key aspect about videographic work is you can translate information so much easier because you're giving this added dimension to practice. You know, it pretty much is giving motion and kineticism to the static image.
Right.
And the static image already can display so much, you know, because it is capturing reality. But to add this next element of movement and animation, it just blows, you know, like, it just gives you so much room to work within conceptually.
You must be excited.
Yeah.
I mean, I would imagine. And how excited are you?
Super excited.
Yeah, and to see it all, so you must have had, you've obviously had the vision, and now you're actually, you know, seeing it manifesting, so to speak, and it's becoming a reality.
Becoming so nervous, it is incredible.
Does it feel surreal?
Surreal and very tense, and also kind of building, and
Because you're really putting yourselves out there. And it's like, you know, you don't know how people are going to react. But I would say personally, judging by what I'm seeing here, the reaction is going to be amazingly positive for sure.
I hope so.
What contemporary ideas and influences have had a big impact on the artists in creating their works?
So I guess like in terms of like Vasili's work, you can see there was like quite a strong influences of the emergence of video culture. So obviously, you know, his stuff is very set out hyper photographically. You know, everything is static in a way and not moving. However, what's going on though is like he's kind of brought this movement to it, you know, and kind of just with the simple addition of movement and kineticism, it really kind of enthralls the viewer. And I think it's kind of also it's a major part of our show as well, is that lots of the works are kind of moving towards video inside the space that is the moving image, which is this hybrid between photographic and videographic work. And I think that's really come out of just contemporary culture, in which there's this new standard in video. You know, YouTube is kind of one of the major sources of information for young people. You know, Facebook, Instagram, you know, pretty much everyone has a laptop these days. Everyone pretty much runs through video or photographic practices as well. And so I think just with this introduction to society, with video being a new standard, it kind of has just infiltrated into you know, videographic practices. As we are both young, you know, artists, emerging artists, this has kind of come into our practice quite naturally. And I think that's quite an interesting thing to look at within the context of our show.
I think it sounds fantastic. Vasili, we've spoken and pretty much covered some of the themes that will be on exhibition. How can we now relate this to contemporary society?
Well, yeah, I think kind of each work has its own kind of connection to contemporary society. Like my work specifically kind of pushes up against and critiques screen culture, but then also looks at this kind of like editorial world and like what the expectations and standards of that is. And so it's kind of...
So what do you mean by editorial world?
So like the kind of person you'd see on the cover of a magazine being maybe not like the traditional, especially with female, like traditional female body size or shape and kind of thing, and like how appearance. So that kind of is pushing up against and critiquing that and kind of turning it on itself and kind of wanting to make a point against like that stupid idea.
And also yours kind of touches on the new emergence of Photoshop, I think,
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah,
Right.
because mine...
Okay, what do you mean by new emergence of Photoshop? That's interesting.
Well, kind of this main point behind my work is the idea of this woman who's not the typical body size disappearing in like media and the editorial world. So kind of throughout the piece, she blends into the green screen and disappears. So that's obviously a lot of very kind of like Photoshop, video editing work, a lot of post-production, as well as also having her wrapped in kind of different materials that also blend her into the background.
Right.
So yeah, it's kind of like going against that kind of stupid modern idea of
Right.
how people should be portrayed.
And you've got, how many people will actually be having like pieces on exhibition?
There's 7 artists in this show, yeah.
7 artists?
Yeah.
Right. And so you've all come together. Will people be able to purchase the artwork?
Yes.
So everything is for sale?
Yeah.
At the
there'll be
right price?
Yeah, there'll be a price list circulating on opening night, I believe, and then it'll kind of stay here throughout the duration of the show.
Right. So tell us, when is the show on and how long will it go for?
So So the show opens Tuesday the 30th of January, and the opening night is from 5 to 8 p.m, where there'll be food and drinks provided, and obviously free entry. And then the show runs from the 30th of January to the 17th of February. And so the gallery's open every Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday,
Right.
from 10 to 5 p.m. each day.
And how will people be able to find out more details?
Well, they can head to Kudos Gallery's website, or it's on like most kind of Sydney-based event sites, and then it's all over social media as well. And it's posters around town if they see one of those.
So, Orson and Vasili, what's next?
Well, that's actually very exciting.
Because
So-
I would take it that you two are already thinking of your next project.
Sure are. Yeah, so Vasili and I have already put in propositions for another gallery for both two solo exhibitions, but so dual solo exhibitions
Right.
at a space where it's a dual space.
Right.
And I've also started to tee up with another gallerist, another space that we might try and take this show to afterwards.
Oh, so there is a chance that this show will tour?
Yes.
Oh, I think it'd be well worthwhile.
Yeah.
I think absolutely.
Yeah, I would really like to see it kind of continue on from this point as well, and just to keep having more and more people see this work that I think personally is
Right.
fantastic, and I'm really proud of, and I'm just really excited to get as much people to see it as possible.
Oh, I think it's sounding great. This is a real example of, and this is what I say to my children all the time, is you have to make your own luck in this world. And what's most enlightening about you two and the other people that are doing the exhibition with you is you've actually created something out of nothing with this exhibition. So you've come up with a concept, you've come up with a whole new idea that's going to be shown to how many people, we don't know. What is the message that you are actually trying to portray?
Well, I think just with the overall kind of creating the show and using young artists kind of just to, I guess, support kind of young upcoming artists and kind of these smaller gallery spaces. I mean, obviously this isn't a giant commercial gallery. So I think that's a really kind of awesome thing about the area as well, is that there are these kind of smaller commercial galleries that do produce really great works and exhibitions, but maybe just don't get as much attention and don't get as much traffic through them. So I think kind of spreading that word and kind of creating more of a
supporting both emerging Sydney, because all the artists are Sydney based, except for one that was born in Perth. But anyway, it's now lives in Sydney. We're all Sydney based artists. We are, all quite young still, and we're all trying to find our feet as artists. And we're also utilising these spaces that are kind of for emerging artists and also kind of emerging spaces as well. This is a bit more, as you were saying, a bit more of an established commercial gallery, which is another reason why feel so blessed to be here. That we're kind of getting endorsed by this kind of quite established gallery already.
That's right. I mean, this is like an art hub, isn't it?
Yes, definitely.
Like Paddington being a very artistic
Yeah,
hub of Sydney. And it is open to all ages. That's the other thing. It's families, grandparents, children, anyone can come along, teenagers, university students, anyone.
It's very inclusive, this
along.
show. And I think the themes that are touched on here, they're quite universal, and they're also just, I feel as though they're quite palatable as well. You can really, it's quite accessible to kind of understand and whatnot. So yeah, I think it is quite a inclusive show in that sense.
Right.
And and I think so. It's a good show to get down to. Yeah.
Are any of these artists represented? Do you have agents or anyone representing you?
No, none of these artists have agents, so they're all self-represented. So yeah.
Yeah. So every artist is self-representing and bringing forth their own work, and all the artists are works are courtesy of the artist in the show.
So my advice is get in and buy this artwork now while you can afford it, because once they get discovered, who knows? have one of the pieces which is called Mechanic, and could you just please explain, is this bacteria? I don't understand. So how did you put bacteria onto the negative? How did that all come together?
Yeah, so these are 4 of 6 from my series Germs. The images we've got here are prints on metallic paper. I've grown bacteria on old film negatives. The bacteria are all captured from the space in which the photograph was taken.
It's amazing.
Yeah,
so this is actually bacteria on.
Yeah, so the bacteria create their own colours and textures, and we can see them from once I scan them digitally at really high resolution. As you can see, yeah, it's kind of abstracted the image completely. This is taken at a mechanic shop, and this is kind of a cart. This one's in Sydney.
Oh, okay.
A couple others are from elsewhere that I'm here right now.
And that's from South America, is it?
Peru, yeah.
Peru, yes. Yes, the other one's from Peru.
Yes. So what I do, I take my camera to each location, and I'd shoot images there. As well as taking cotton swabs, and I'd swab something in the scene of the photograph. I'd develop the film, and then I'd apply the bacteria with the swab onto the negative.
Wow.
Place the negative in a petri dish and leave it for a few weeks, and it'll grow. And I take it out and scan it, and it affects the image in different ways.
And these are their own colours?
Yes.
So have the colours been enhanced in any
So
way?
these reds and kind of yellows and greens that we have here aren't from the original photograph. So it's kind of warped the original photograph.
So is it almost like
These colours have grown physically onto the analog surface of the film slide.
It's like essentially like trying to
So
materialize and visualize something that was previously.
is this done under like infrared light or something like that? Is that what makes it?
No, I just use like traditional film scanners, so I feed the negatives in and I just scan them really, really high resolution so we can kind of observe.
And they've been cultivated just in kind of hot boxes,
Yeah.
so that the algae kind of grows and like formulates actually like on the surface that you want it to do.
Yeah.
So yeah, kind of like bringing a bit of chemistry into it as well.
And it's also interesting because each kind of bacteria and colony from each space is different, so they all affect the photograph differently. Yeah.
It's very interesting.
So unique.
This is a promotional poster that we've been using, to advertise the exhibition. We've been placing it around, main streets around the gallery and around the city. It's pretty great that the curators actually selected this to be one of the main featured images, as well as a few other ones. So that
Tell us how you do all this. How does this come together?
So this is all the same process as the rest of the work. Of course, this image will be printed like the others and framed. So yeah, it's the same process. This photo was taken in Lima, and I've applied the bacteria swab from this memorial.
So it starts in a petri dish.
Yeah, so I cut out the negative into a single slide and then place it in a petri dish. And, before that I rub the swab onto the negative and onto the nutrient agar in the petri dish. Close it up and leave it in a shoebox for a couple of weeks because it's damp and humid.
Right.
And yeah, after a couple of weeks, you can kind of see the mould growing on the layer of the film.
So this is technically the mould, right?
Yeah, so that's all the mould, and it's kind
And the
of
algae.
transformed the colours and textures in the photograph. So,
Wow.
yeah.
Amazing.
So yeah, it's going to be a really awesome show. Opening up will be super fun. Tuesday the 30th of January, 5 to 8 p.m. There's going to be free drinks and food. Obviously we'll be here, all the other artists will be here. And yeah, come on down.
Come on down.
It's all happening at Kudos Gallery,
Come on
Napier
down.
Street, Paddington.